everyone, and welcome to the Lunchtime Discovery Series. Thank you for joining today's program. My name is Andrea Murray, and I am an intern at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. I'll be your host today while Chris is away. The Lunchtime Discovery Series is a partnership between the museum and the folks in the Office of Environmental Education within the Department of Environmental Quality, working together to bring this fantastic program to all of you every week. A reminder to our viewers today that we will take your questions. As questions arise, type them in the chat in YouTube, and we'll ask them after the presentation by our guest speaker. For today's program, we're excited to recognize Black History Month with stories of change makers from the past and also from the present. Today's guest speaker is Kamal Bell, and Kamal joins us today.
Hi, how's everyone? I hope everyone's doing well.
Yes. Kamal is the owner of Sankofa Farms in Efland, North Carolina. How are you doing today, Kamal?
I'm doing well. I had a long day. We had a delivery this morning, but I'm doing really well today.
Gotcha. You probably woke up pretty early today, right?
I definitely did. I definitely did.
Awesome. Well, we'll turn the time over to you for your presentation.
All right, everyone. My audio was off, so I think you all are probably seeing me, like seeing the Sankofa logo, but I'm on video talking, so I hope it doesn't cause any confusion. But I'm getting ready to share my screen with you all so we can go through our presentation on climate smart agriculture and my journey into the agricultural field. And please feel free to answer or to ask any questions that you may have. All right, here we go. So before we even get into the presentation and learn about more who I am, I just wanted to go over and define climate smart agriculture. And how I wanted to do that was by using a definition from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And they define climate smart agriculture as an approach that helps and guides and transforms agri-food systems to be more climate resilient. And I do want to emphasize that climate resiliency is something that we have practiced for generations and years, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. So I don't want people to get confused on the terminology, because I know you hear sustainability sometimes. You also hear regenerative agriculture. These are all just terms, but I think what's really important is that we focus on the end goal, and that's to use these systems and develop systems that can benefit everyone, especially people who are most negatively impacted by them. I was trying to highlight my video to see if is it switching from when I'm talking to just like the Sankofa screen logo, or can you see my video as I'm talking? Okay, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just on my end. So before I go into presentations, I do always like to start with a video, because I know us being virtual or just somebody presenting, sometimes you just like kind of stand in front of them, and people may be familiar, but some people may not. So I like to share this video. It's called Dear Dad. It's a short film about a really cool producer who we met doing another commercial. We were doing a commercial with AT&T, and one of the videographers was a really cool, and he works for a film company. He got this he won a competition or something, got selected to do an opportunity to tell short stories about Black fatherhood, and he chose us at Sankofa. So here's a quick story that I think kind of gives people a good idea of who I am, so you'll be more comfortable with me as we go through this presentation.
You can't move forward without a knowledge of the past. The men before me always pushed me to grow. So I started a farm to continue building a stronger foundation for the future.
Oh yeah, come on, I'll tell you one thing. I never thought it would come to this. I'm so proud of you.
Sankofa Farms is the engine to rebuild the things we see wrong today. You start with the food, then you build other systems that are mandatory for us to survive. One of the best things that we can do to reestablish a relationship with ourselves, each other, the land, is accepting that land feels. Everything has feelings. We have feelings because we are all connected.
I invite you all to inhale and fill your belly with air. Inhale, feeling the earth supporting you. It's a swirl of energy connecting you and the earth right at the root. And exhale, take it down. All right.
As a father, I try to teach my sons we're a community and do nothing alone. There's a symbiotic relationship that we all have to one another, and nature is a great example of that for them.
As your breath is a symphony of noises that you hear.
It shows them the value of patience,
Don't judge any of the sounds that you hear. Just let them play with your eardrums.
consistency,
And add your breath. All the sounds of nature, the sounds of people that you hear.
fearlessness,
One more time.
and collaboration.
That's good. It's full of honey.
There's a constant parallel and reorientation that always occurs between growing food, you as a human, and being a father.
What are you excited about?
Just being able to provide an environment for things to grow, you realize that you get to do that with the people in your life too. I have to be compassionate. I have to be able to be loving. I have to be vulnerable. There are all the same things necessary to create a healthy environment, to grow and cultivate food. If I have a bad practice at the farm, I don't water my crops, I don't tend to them when I see a pest, I don't provide the right nutrients, I'm not going to get a good crop. The same goes for my sons and the other young men I set an example for. At the root, to be a father is to be an extension of those you love. The effect on the whole starts with the smallest seed receiving the right nurturing and love. Our next frontier depends on the life we sow today.
Space is definitely great. Space is the place.
You can't move forward without a knowledge of the past. You want to go to the moon one day?
I always just show that so people can be familiar with me in some capacity. So one of the key things that sparked my interest in starting a farm was my early childhood educational experiences, and how I started my process was I went to North Carolina Central's pre-K. It's a HBCU here in Durham, Carolina, and after that I went to it's an all-black learning space essentially. Then I went to Harris, which is around the same thing at that time, but then things flipped for me where I ended up going to Catholic school. And there, I began to see just disparities, and I started to have questions on how certain communities were able to have certain things, how their infrastructure was developed. I didn't really call it infrastructure at the time, but you really see the class piece. Like, okay, how does this community have so much more money than the community I've come from? They have their own schools. The parents have really nice cars. Not saying every person in the environment was like this, because there were some that weren't, but the majority. And they were able to essentially build a school. And they had elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and I mean there are universities, but just those three levels of learning, they were able to create those for themselves. And then I started to look at my community, and I saw the same thing, but the resources in the environments were completely different, and the ownership structure was different. So after I left high school, I had an idea. I was like, you know what? I want to go to an HBCU. That's a historically Black college university. And here, I want to be able to develop a system or something that can give back to my community. So I go here, and my first year, I was on track to be a veterinarian. And as I started to think, I started to read more. I used to always go to the Black Studies section, the third floor in the library, and I used to read. And I got to a point where I would start to read more Black history than I would do my schoolwork. And I remember me and my dad having a very pivotal conversation. And he was like, "Man, look, I understand that's what you want to learn, but you got to find a way to balance it. You're not in college to essentially fail." So I'm like, all right, yeah, you're right. Let me go ahead and try to balance these out. So as I started to read, I aligned what I wanted to, what I thought my purpose was, with my degree. And ironically, what you find at a historically Black college, what I found, and this is a land grant. I want everybody to keep that in their head. It's an 1890 land grant. And when I would go to express to people, like especially my classmates, that I wanted to be a farmer, I will always be met with, "Why do you want to become a farmer? Farmers are poor. You're going to be a poor farmer." And I'm sitting there looking, and I'm just like, well, if we study history, groups of people bear their situations by establishing what first? Food system. But that consciousness isn't present at the university, like a consciousness on how we can utilize resources to help our community. They are not present at it wasn't present there. So essentially what we ended up doing was, and I'm not saying it never was, just at that point that we were at, it wasn't. So eventually I ended up becoming the president of Black History Club. And you can ask me questions about that later. I can give you more insight on that. But I would get pushback. So whenever I got pushback, survive through that environment, I had to use it as motivation. I don't necessarily do that anymore. As now that I've gotten older and mature, but there you kind of walk around with a chip on your shoulder. So I was able to meet some really cool professors there that were able to cultivate and be like, you know what, there's something different about this guy. He wants to actually start a farm. So I had professors there that would push me in the right direction, say, "Hey, you can change your major to this. You can look at these resources." And eventually I found out that there was a FSA program, or there was a farm loan program through the FSA, which is the Farm Service Agency, through the USDA, which you could apply for if you wanted to get into farming. But this could be a whole other presentation. We could talk about the inequities within lending services and the USDA and all that. But I eventually went to the USDA and got my farm loan. I was originally denied first, even though by this time I had already completed 4 years of 4 years of a bachelor's degree, and then had a master's in agricultural education on top of getting internship experience and managerial experience at A&T's farm, and on top of starting the dehydrated fruit business, and on top of leasing an acre of land. I was still denied, but eventually it got overturned after I had to appeal it. But it essentially led me on my journey to farming. What was the real staple and why I wanted to go into farming was the whole idea behind addressing food disparities, what people call food deserts, people call food apartheid. And this goes back to my original point with the naming of things. I don't get caught up too much in the verbiage. I just say food deserts, or I just say people don't have access to food. I mean, the same. We can call it anything we want. The impact is still the same in our communities. So I don't get too caught up on the terminology, but the food desert piece was really what sparked my interest. And Greensboro is a really a great example of a food desert. East Greensboro compared to West Greensboro. East Greensboro, this is where A&T is, right up the street from A&T. You can literally name every fast food restaurant. There's a Bojangles, Wendy's, Burger King. There was a place called Miss Winners. They ended up going out of business. And KFC, Taco Bell, Sonic, Biscuitville. I'm probably missing one, but they're all on a stretch. It's a cookout. It's all on one stretch. But then when you go over to West Greensboro, Friendly Center, there's all these different outlets of food choice. There's a Baba House. There's a Harris Teeter. In the produce sections look completely different. I don't think there's a food line on that side of town. There may be like in a different part of it, but they have healthier outlets. But then when you start to go into grocery stores, on one end of the city, they look completely different than the other end based on socioeconomic status. So there are a lot of different things we can correlate to health. So this was what sparked me to say, you know what, if I want to address all these issues, because it's not just about food, it's about income, it's about education, it's about real estate, entrepreneurship, Black land. There's so many things that intersect. And this led me into going into farming. So farming is the intersection of so many societal issues. And I feel that if we can develop stronger farming systems, then we're able to address a lot of the other things. And I'll be an example, and I'll provide examples as we've been able to develop the farm and what we're doing now. And this is a picture of my lovely family. This is our son Akeem here. This is our oldest son Khalil. My wife Amber is here, and actually today is her birthday, and I'll talk more about my lovely wife Amber in the beautiful work that she's doing toward the end of the presentation. And here's Ade. He'll be actually 2 end of this month, February, end of February. So some of the things. Here's a older drone shot of the farm. This is actually last spring. We do a lot of indoor growing, and as we refer back to the definition of climate smart, we want to make sure that we're keeping an idea of centering the environment, but also creating a farming system that can be an income. It can provide an income for people who are working there. We can pay them a great wage, or it's anybody who we interact with that comes to a farm that offers good energy and a great service. So we use greenhouses. And the reason we do this, and I know that greenhouses are made of a ton of plastic. I am aware of that. But what greenhouses allow us to do, they allow us to keep our resources low. So a perfect example is if it was hot. This was taken in the spring, as you can tell with the vegetation is brown, and you can see the cut lines in it. But if this house was to take on full sun during the day, we don't have to use as much water. One, if it was just a field, we can pull shade cloths over it to keep it cooler in the house and provides a nice environment. We pull the sides up. And then if it's raining really hard, we don't lose the form of our bed and we don't have a runoff of nutrients. Because when the rain comes down and then it goes to the area of least resistance, it takes nutrients with it. So we don't have that issue as abundantly as we would if erosion with wind. The greenhouses keep us at a point where we can use limited resources, water, nutrients, protects the beds. So this doesn't create an environment where we have to consistently put in labor to get a specific result. We have 6 here. There's another smaller one here, which is something we did get through the USDA. They have a cost share program. And we're also building another one here, and we have 2 climate control ones to put up, and one will serve as our seedling house, and this will allow us to grow. This is down the line, though. The seedling house is probably like 1.5 years, 2 years away, just because of where we are with the farm. And the seedling house will allow us to grow our own transplants and then get them in the ground, which will cut off us having to drive and pay somebody else to do it. So we're just aware of all the things that we do. We also are driving more, so we're giving off more CO2 because we're using the vehicle. So we're aware of all those things, so we're trying to mitigate them as much as possible. And also here are our bees. We're actually restarting our apiary this year, just because we had to put so much focus on the vegetable operation at the moment, and we have we had to for income purposes and really just honing in on that one thing, because what ends up happening with the farming piece is you end up trying to do so many different things at one time, you end up getting nothing done. So we do have plans to expand and develop different systems with the 5 acres that are open at the farm, but we also have an additional 7 that are still wooded that we're going to be able to develop as time goes on. This is a 20 by 50 foot for community kitchen we just completed a few weeks ago, and this is Devin. He's one of my really close friends. Well, he has to be close because we talk every single day, every single day at the farm. But also, he's our farm manager, and with him coming to the farm, that is essentially what put us over the threshold to actually become a productive small farm. Without Devin, that wouldn't be possible. He has a really, really interesting background, and he's an artist. So artists see the world in a completely different way, which helps inform our practice at the farm in a really, really beneficial way. But the structure we have here is it'll serve as a community kitchen. So once we outfit it with the electricity and then bring in the kitchen supplies, we want to be able to process our food and send it out in a different form, essentially. So we want to be able to actually provide meals for people down the line and have a van or a bus or wherever it needs to be to take food to our community that's already prepped. Here are some of the things that we grow. It's not a complete list, but spring, fall, and winter look primarily the same. So kale, parsley, chard, lettuces, your beets, salad mixes, collards, turnips. We grow a lot of those during this time of the year, but as we transition to the summer, we do tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, peppers, carrots. Carrots you can do virtually all year round here. So we have a diverse offering of crops. This year, I think we will actually get back to something we haven't done in years, and we'll be able to grow watermelons again. And we do sugar baby seeded watermelons. That's just a variety that I really like, and they're a smaller variety of watermelon. But these are just some of the things that we grow because I always will forget. And here's just how the crops look in the high tonal setting. You can really cut down weed pressure on them because the weeds, as we know, take away nutrients from the crops, and they're hard to really get a good harvest. But this is just how some of the crops, and these are older pictures now, the greenhouses look. They look similar, but the beds are more full because we've been composting, integrating the compost. And we're actually at a point now where we're I guess we're limited till, officially limited till. We don't use our tiller as much anymore. We probably use our tiller only when we're breaking or creating new beds. That's when we're pulling up dirt, breaking it up, and then amending and adding compost, and then mixing it in. Now that we've done that for a few years, about 3 years consistently, we have these lush, nutrient-dense beds at the farm. So now we don't have to keep composting over and over. We amend, and then we add a little bit of compost, and then we get our plants in. The beds, if they aren't amended in this type of clay or ground that we use, they get really, really hard. And it's hard to plant anything, but now they're really soft, lush, nutrient-dense beds at the farm. We also, at our farm, have a CSA. And through our CSA, we've worked with 2 churches, St. Mark and Zion in Durham, and also First Presbyterian. And these churches have been very, very supportive of our efforts at Sankofa and taking produce from us and giving us positive feedback and just appreciating and supporting our efforts at the farm. So these are 2 members from St. Mark and Zion here. We also have a youth component of our farm, and one of our students, and we work with a range of students, I will say that. We have a lot of what we would call success stories, and then we have stories of kids who aren't doing so well, but it's an unfortunate thing, but the reality of working with youth and not being able to consistently have them at the farm is a thing that we want to work on long term, because when the students are at the farm, they're great. Like you see them utilizing parts of their mind that they've never utilized before. They're learning who they are. They start looking at the world differently. But when they go back to their home environments, that's when you get they get sidetracked. That's just like all of us. It just so happens that the things that students get involved to now are at a higher state than what they were when I was growing up, or what older generations may have. So this is something that we want to build out year by year to bring in more students into the farm. We believe that no student should be left behind. Once a student chooses the mentor, the mentor must guide as best as possible, and that's our firm belief at Sankofa. And here's a picture of just one of the experiences the students were able to go on. This was in 2018. Bear Crop Science brought us out because we were using something called the Healthy Colony Checklist, and they had a slot at the Atlantic, and we were able to present on how the checklist they provided was helping us keep a healthier and more robust bee population. So we're gonna the Healthy Colony Checklist, it works very, very well. It's a science-based protocol for dealing with bees. But now that we have kind of switched gears a little bit, we'll be re-implementing that. And this is Cameron. He's actually the student that suggested we get bees. And my response, because the only thing that I've seen about bees before was I saw Candyman. I mean, you see him out in the environment, but I was terrified of honeybees. But Cameron mentioned that if we got honeybees, it would help keep him more invested with the farm. So we all ended up going to bee school, and we all ended up getting bees. And this is another student, Kamani, who got off track a little bit. It's sad to see the track that he's gone on, but I hope one day it comes back together for him. But he showed a lot of promise when he was at the farm. And this is another one of my close friends. This is another Devin. So there's two Devins that I'm really, really close to. There's a Devin that's the farm manager, and then there's another Devin who does a lot of our marketing and media for the farm. And he was able to go on the trip with us as well, which was a great experience. Here's a picture from all of us. This was taken 2 years ago. This is where I met Jared, who did Dear Dad. He actually took this, I believe. And we did a commercial with AT&T about expanding rural broadband. So you should see that. You should see that commercial some point this year. Hopefully next year, because every year that goes by, they have to renew it. So they compensate us for it. So hopefully we see it renewing. But it's a really good commercial about expanding rural broadband and how technology has helped us at our farm. So our bees at Sankofa, bees are probably my favorite thing to do. I'll just be honest. The produce, I like the produce, don't get me wrong, but the bees are the thing. They're like a meditation tool. Or they help me with just centering myself in balance. The bees are they communicate. They're living in a different way. Like you can interact with them in a different way than the plant. Like I go up to a plant, you can talk to a plant, but the plant's not gonna it's not gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not gonna talk back, but it's not gonna interact with you in a way where you it's not gonna be exciting in the same sense that the bees are. Not saying the plants aren't exciting, but the bees are exciting in a different way. I can get up close to the bees. They can start flying around. You can watch them bring in pollen. You can troubleshoot issues with them. So I'm really, really connected to the bees. And eventually I got to the mindset that the bees they're just visiting Sankofa, and when they want to go, they go. So bees do something called swarming, which we're going to start seeing in the next few weeks, I'm pretty sure. Probably the second week of March, if not sooner, where a large part of the colony leaves because they run out of space. And I love catching honey bees. Like I love catching honey bees. So you'll see some beekeeping content at the farm in a couple of weeks. About our operation, at the time we were managing 30 bees. We used to have the county checklist, and we don't raise bees for honey. Bees are sacred, and if we are to split a hive, and that is when you take a small portion of the colony, you put it in a separate space, it grows into a full colony, and the frames you took it from, it restarts or it grows into a larger colony. Typically people sell bees. I don't. I like the bees to be like a gift, or like a gift of respect or courtesy. So if people receive bees from us, it's in that sense. It's not a thing for money, because I don't like just me and the bees and money. In selling them is kind of hard for me. And here's a picture of Akeem. He is our middle child, and he loves the honeybees. We're going to be doing some beekeeping content. We have a children's book coming out next year with him. We got a publishing deal for it, and he loves honeybees. He's asked me every single week, "Are we getting? Are we going to bring bees in the backyard? I want to go into bees more." So, my oldest son likes them too, but Akeem is busy as a bee and reminds you of like a honeybee. He loves bee. Like he's very connected to the honeybee. So we'll be doing a lot of content this year with him and the honeybees. And here was some content that we did do. At the time he was 4, and we called him the youngest beekeeper in the world. He's just like a little snippet of what he was doing with the bees.
Slow puff.
Right there.
Where? That's the queen?
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
That went viral for whatever reason. I'm still trying to figure that out to this day. But people really, really enjoyed watching this 4-year-old work with bees. And Morgan Freeman's team even reached out to us at a point to connect with him about the bees. So I don't know what's going to come from it, but we'll see. We'll see. That celebrity world is a whole different world. We also do something called Bees in the Trap. So Bees in the Trap is a program that we do, and TRAP is an acronym for Teaching Responsible Apiary Practices. We do it through Airbnb, but what people are able to do, and since it's almost Valentine's Day, this could be a good gift for people later in the year if they just got it now and came out in the spring when it's warmer. For couples, it was typically couples who would come out. They would come out, we would go over the equipment we needed to keep bees, and then they would dress up in a suit. And we would go through how to conduct the hive inspection. And people love this. We have had hundreds of people come out to Bees in the Trap. And I think, and today, only one person got stung ever, but they were being really rude and wanting to get pictures and all that kind of stuff. And they were being hard on the bees a little bit and wanted to get a picture. They took their covering with their bee suit off at a time where they weren't supposed to. So this is something that we enjoy. I need my computer. Give me 1 second. I'm muted on my computer. Here is our Bees in the Trap like tagline. Essentially, so you just go to Bees in the Trap, and here's the tags and the interface that you'll interact with on Airbnb to know that it's us. So you can just book, and if I don't have any dates that are available, you can request specific dates from me. And the biggest thing that we want to do with people in agriculture in the community is bridge the gap. And the gap is between us and nature. So a lot of times we're sitting inside and sitting in the office, or we're not interacting with nature. I think the best lessons are in nature. And I think it's important for us to get out and be one with nature again. I think a lot of messaging and a lot of answers will come to us if we collectively do that. So what's next for Sankofa? We'll meet my beautiful wife, Kamal Bell. She's a birth doula. And really what, I don't know what sparked Amber to become a doula. I think her and Akeem are just like, they're like free flowing, like go with the wind, love centered, caring people. I'm not saying me and Khalil and Ade aren't. I mean, I really don't know about Ade yet. He's like only 2, but they're really like people of the earth. They're really not, well, all people on the earth, but they're like really earthy. Y'all know what I'm saying. Y'all probably, everybody's a friend or family members like that. Um, and I think one thing that opened my eyes was that we did a home birth with our day. And I was joking. I was like thinking to myself, like, what happens if I deliver the baby? Because you have to call in a midwife and doula. Amber labors really quickly, and we called the doula and the midwife kind of late. So I ended up catching Ade uh, during during his birth. So I helped birth him. But Amber did all the work. I just called him. But it really, really, really fun experience. It's not for the faint of heart. Yeah, you can ask about that. Like, well, it was really just an experience. But and I think that experience helped inform or inspire Amber to her birthing work and just having birthing three kids naturally. And we've been working to bridge both of our worlds together, which I think they fit perfectly. So just in this society, like in American society, it's a lot of things are disjointed. So I think naturally agriculture and birthing work go hand in hand. So we've been talking about collaborating more. And one of the ways we have collaborated is by working with birthing mothers and getting them produce. So what we want to do long term is be able to do this consistently with just mothers, birthing mothers. So we want to have an emphasis on just anybody who needs food, but then have a specific honed in interest in programming for women who are birthing who just want to eat healthy. So we want to be able to support them and the best way we can during the pregnancy and then after the pregnancy, and eventually just try to address things that we see in our community from a holistic standpoint. So if you all have any questions for me, here are all of our social media handles: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, the website, YouTube, and Twitter. They're all Sankofa Farms, except for the website, sankofafarms.com. If you have any questions or want to learn more about Sankofa and what we're doing, you can follow these channels. And they're getting ready to get active again since we're building more of a structure around the farm. And I answer questions all the time. DM me on Instagram is the quickest way. Emails, they kind of get shuffled and lost. They're a little hard, but that's why I left these up here for people because I'll respond quicker. Instagram and LinkedIn are the quickest ways to get in contact with me digitally. Or you can just hit me up and then come to the farm, which we would love to have you and host you. So I'm looking forward to a lot of you all's questions. And thank you for listening to me talk for 40 minutes, right on the dot. So thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kamal. Everybody drop your appreciation also in the chat. Yeah, it's so cool hearing about your farm and how you are using it to make the world a better place and how you're seeing these needs in the community and doing what you can to address those needs. So I think that's really cool. I'm curious how many employees and students that you have at the farm.
Right now at the farm, we have one. I'm thinking of students first. There's one person is Devin. That's the employee. So me and Devin handle everything. But students, we have a student, Mikhail, who actually was able to use his experience at the farm to get a full scholarship at Duke University. So he's a freshman there. He actually works with my boys on the weekends as well. He got a full ride to Duke. He still comes to the farm. Cameron comes to the farm still. And I'm going to be working with a new youth group at a church here in Durham, starting next week, I believe. I have to go check my dates. So we're going to have new youth coming to the farm starting next week. So I don't know how big that group is, but right now it's then we host field trips and kids coming out to the farm. But like, as far as in the program, it's those two that are consistently there, and then we'll be bringing more students in this year.
Awesome. That's cool. Okay, let's see. A question from the chat is from Michael from Chicago, Illinois. He is wondering if you have studied the use of fungus and or cyanobacteria to help to fertilize the soil.
I have not, but if he has resources and knows how to do that, I would definitely be interested in doing that. That sounds really, really interesting. It's right up my alley.
Yeah, cool. All right, and then
Please send us a DM or email, Michael.
yes, Kamal would love to learn more about that. Awesome. A question from Beth. How do you pollinate if all the plants are in tunnels?
So there are beneficial pollinators already in the environment, but in the springtime, the things that really need pollination, like your cucumbers, the things that flower, squash, so on, zucchini, tomatoes, bumblebees come in. I really don't see honeybees come in and then insects can access the tunnels at all times. So moths are pollinators, even though we don't like them. Flies, wasps, all these other pollinators, butterflies, they all come in and they have access to the produce too. That's how they're pollinated. I typically don't see honeybees on the flowering plants unless we're in the dearth. That's when the pollen producing plants in the environment start to get ready for fall and their yields lower. So the bees are looking for a pollen source. So they'll come into the tunnels then. But typically the native pollinators take care of the pollination at the farm.
Okay, that's cool. So the tunnels are just open to
Mhm.
the environment so that
Mhm.
the insects can just enter
Yep.
the tunnel.
Yeah,
Cool.
the only time that they're typically closed is now and during the winter because the frost will destroy them. But nothing needs to be pollinated now. We're not growing anything needs to be pollinated now. So, but in the spring, those plants the summer stuff is really heavy with with the pollinators.
Cool. Awesome. All right, next question. What has been one of the most rewarding parts of managing the farm for you?
I think one of the most rewarding parts, I think there are a couple. One, how it's helped me change my perspective on life and my purpose and how I live, and how it's made me look to myself to figure out things on the spiritual front with me. I think the farm is more of a spiritual tool than anything. If we could start a farm and do everything without the money piece, the monetary piece, um, we would, but you need money to survive and all that. So there's a balance there. But how it's caused me to look internally and look at myself, to learn myself has helped. Outwardly, just connecting with people has been really beautiful. It seems like people who gravitate toward the farm are really, really special in some way. And not saying people who don't come are, but people who actually can make it out there and we can combine and connect. We connect on a different way, a wavelength, and also seeing what it's done for my family has been pretty special. Yeah, so it's been rewarding in those aspects.
Yeah, that's cool. So your family is pretty involved in the farm with you?
They're getting there. So one thing that historically has happened, since we're like in Black History Month, I'll give like historical context. Traditionally, we had access, or some of us had access to land, and there's a farming that we interact with the farm in some aspect. Historically, that has been traumatic because we talk about slavery. But then post-slavery, there were Black farmers, but then a lot of the land was taken away, and that continues to happen. So there was an emphasis at some point of us leaving the farm to go seek other opportunities. And a lot of people will talk about how hard the farm work was and how they would associate a negative context around it. So what I want to do with the farm, also my family, everybody's involved, but it's not in a way where like they have to be. So it's more of a involvement where it's more natural, and the more they want to be out there, they come out there. So the boys are out there more in the in the summer than they will be in the winter because it's a whole lot harder. But I introduce it to them slowly because I don't want them to ever want to run away from the farm.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, next question. Do you think healthy eating might hold the key to mitigating some of the diseases that are rampant right now, such as obesity and diabetes?
I definitely think so. Just from what I feel like I know, I'm not a medical professional, so don't take my advice. But I do think that a lot of the things that illnesses we suffer from, are due to our eating habits. I think we can do a self test if we just go to a fast food restaurant every single day for a whole month and just only eat that. It's not a balanced diet. So I think there is a balance we need to have because people can argue you can eat. I mean, you can't really argue that if you eat uh, farm fresh food and you prepare a specific way that it's not going to harm you. So I, it's hard to argue that, but I do think there needs to be a balance maintained. But I do think we need to incorporate healthier food options into our eating patterns. I think that would help us a lot. It would help us a lot.
Awesome. I actually had this question too, so thanks for asking it. Bees in the Trap Airbnb. Does this involve an overnight stay at your place?
Oh no, it doesn't. It's an experience. So you just come for an hour and 15 minutes and then you leave. But hopefully one day we can offer that to people where they can actually come to Bees and Trap and do it and they can stay at the farm.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to donate a tiny home, we know what to do with it.
Yes, that would be great. Okay, I'm having a hard time pulling up the last question on here. In the meantime, I was wondering what the biggest obstacle that you faced in starting your farm.
That's a great question. The biggest obstacle was actually getting the farm. The USDA gave me a hard time. So the application is that you have to have an offer to purchase for the land. You have to have you have to qualify experience-wise based on what they see as beneficial. What else? You have to be able to financially be obligated to work with them. Yeah, it's a lot. So being denied the farm and denied opportunity, and then being able to learn how to farm with this small scale farmer model was difficult because the model is new. So universities don't teach it. You can't go to a small scale farming school essentially and learn how to do it. So one of my mentors, Howard Allen at Faithful Farms in Chapel Hill, he's essentially taught me a lot of what I do. Give me a really strong foundation. So now we're building on that foundation. So I would say acquiring land and then learning what to do with the land is difficult because with the model, you would either have to cover crop very heavily or have access to compost to integrate into your soil. So you just can't build the model anywhere. I mean, you can, but you have to find the market. This area is perfect for a small scale farmer model if you can access the market. But other areas, I don't think, like rural areas that aren't close to an urban area where there's a high demand for fresh food, I don't think it was served too well unless they, you can connect with families directly, but usually there's an economic portion that connects to that as well. So I think that this is really important for people like that. I just to understand that, but I think that's the biggest obstacle is the knowledge piece, the knowledge base, and then getting land.
Right. Yeah. The next question kind of goes along with what you were just saying. They're asking if you have a checklist or resources to navigate the bureaucracy for young Black men to follow in your footsteps in starting their own farm.
I don't. That would. I mean, it's not the how that the learning piece is the biggest was a large barrier because where would you go to learn? You would essentially have to come Sankofa to learn it at this point. Which I wouldn't have a problem with when we had a place for people to stay there and getting to do an intern with us. It's the knowledge piece. Is more of just having a hands-on experience with it, so you can learn the ins and outs of it, like the nuance piece. The nuances in the knowledge are difficult. Like a perfect example is when it gets really hot, you can irrigate your crops, and the water lines stretch out, and they're full of water, and you drip the water in the exact spot. But if you don't put the staples down every so many feet, when it gets hot, the lines contract. So it throws them off of placement. So then when you go to water again, all the crops don't get the same amount of water if they're not stapled in correctly. So it's little nuanced things like that, or like your timers, they freeze in the winter. You have to buy a whole bunch of new ones, and everybody has a graveyard of timers, and we need a new timer set up for a farm. So I think a guide would. I don't have a guide. I'd be willing to develop one though. But those are that hands-on pieces what I think we could move on to, because not only are you learning how to farm, you learn how to be one with the environment again. And I think that's why we're having these conversations about regenerative agriculture, these terms, sustainable, climate smart agriculture, all these different things, because we're so far removed from being close to the earth again. Like, when's the last time we walked outside without our shoes? Like, when's the last time we've done things like that? Or when's the last time we've sat down just in the sun and not done anything, just left our phones and just sunbathed? Like, it's things like that. It's the last time we took a breath of fresh air that wasn't in a highly populated area of town. Just took a breath of fresh air in a rural environment. So these are the things that I think are offered to us once we essentially unplug. Since they're trying to sell us the new Vision Pro now, I think we should look at these things as signs that we need to unplug and get back into Mother Nature as best we can.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Another question, what is some advice that you have for a person who's wanting to do something that's different than what the people around them are doing?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that people can do just in general is believe in themselves and know that if there's something internal in you that's asking you or directing you to do something that others aren't doing, it's probably coming from a very good place. And in that, you have to understand that society isn't going to really validate that work. I feel like society is in a really interesting space right now. But life is what you make it. But I think just what we are told we should be doing. If everybody's going left and we're going right, the person on the right usually gets canceled. Like, we live in a cancel culture, and I think it's I don't think it impacts people the right way. I think it promotes people to think as a group. Like, if you see something on social media, typically everybody's doing the same exact thing, or commenting the same way, or talking the same way. We're losing our individuality as people. So that thing, and I don't mean individuality in reference to us not still being a community of people. I mean individuality as in we're scared to do something different than a larger group. That's what I mean in that sense. So in that case, we should be very aware and know that you have to keep looking to yourself for answers, and let that be your guide. Don't let society try to guide you, because like I mentioned, if I listened to the larger society, what would have been funny is that if I would listen to everybody who told me I was going to be a poor farmer, the farming moment that we're in now, when a farmer is actually able to do a speaking engagement, which we really haven't seen before, I would have missed it. And then everybody who would have told me that I was going to be a poor farmer, or who act like it didn't see the work, or gave negative energy, would act like they didn't say it. They would just move on to the next thing. So if I were to listen to those people have short memories like that. All the people who talk to me like that, their memories are really short, and they'll say things to me now, and I'm just like, well, you told us going to be a poor farmer, but now you're having this whole conversation with me. So it's really interesting that those people don't ever come back around like, you know what, man, I'm sorry, I was wrong. for telling you this negative thing. They'll just continue to go with that same mentality in their lives. So it's best just not, and you can feel it when you're talking to people who don't want to give you positive energy. So I think the best thing is just being able to believe in yourself.
That's awesome. That's great advice. One last question. I'm curious how if it was difficult to connect the resources, the things that you have created on your farm, with people in food deserts. Has that been difficult to figure out how to do that?
Yes and no. The hard part is when we thought that we were just going to grow food and throw it at the problem. That was the hard part. The thing that works the best is working with organizations that already have relationships with people in the community. So the churches are a perfect example, and our community that's a church. So once we can develop and formalize a structure on the church, then we'll move to youth centers or community centers. We'll be able to work with different pieces of infrastructure, because what you end up hearing is that our people tell you these communities don't have resources. They do. They have infrastructure there. And it may not look like I mentioned, the schools. They're like the schools earlier, the example of how both systems are developed, but one has more resources than the other. So there are resources there. We just have to be able to use our mind and use the relationships that we build with people. So the food is just a way to build relationships with our community. So after I stopped looking at it from a narrow or a singular standpoint and listening to what the research says, quote unquote, not saying it's not needed. People have infrastructure, and it's best that we utilize that infrastructure, because then you're able to get close to the people, and the people also see that here's a thing in our community that works. So I think we often forget that adds validation, because if you're living in a community and you have this specific infrastructure that's now being utilized, that gives you more confidence to want to live in the community and say, hey, there's good things going on here, in contrary to what we're always told about our community. So that was so it has been difficult, but we had to change our perspective.
Right. Gotcha. Well, we are about out of time. So I just want to say thank you again, Kamal, for taking the time to come talk to us about your farm. It sounds really cool. It sounds like you're doing awesome work on your farm. I'm excited to come visit sometime.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Everybody on the call, you're more than welcome. And thank you all for joining today. It means a lot. And I hope to see you all very soon. Thank you all for hosting the event.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.